What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and tonight, you guys, we have a fantastic episode in store for you guys. I hope you guys are having an amazing week, as am I. I'm so glad that this week is over, however, and I'm so glad to be talking some sports with you on this Friday night. And in doing so, I obviously had to go out and get another special guest. Unfortunately, Tyler is out tonight. He's celebrating one of his friend's 21st birthday, so he couldn't make it tonight. Unfortunately, he gave me enough notice, so I'm gonna let him have his night. So I ended up going out and getting a good guest host of mine. I ended up meeting him just this year, so I'm really excited for what we have in store for tonight's episode. So without any further ado, let me welcome the guest of tonight's show, Cam Souve. Cam, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, no sports on tonight, so I'm ready to talk about sports.
Exactly. I mean, you kind of get drained of it, and you're not left with anything, and it's like, oh shoot, like what am I gonna do now? And it's like, all right, might as well spitball.
I'm trying to play on Friday night. I got nothing to do.
Pretty much. Listen, whenever sports isn't on for a sports talk show, it's probably the best thing that can happen, because usually there's no breaking news that's gonna come in and basically make you have to scrap your whole show. So
I don't know. We still got Red Sox free agency.
Oh, I mean, listen, if the Red Sox sign like Javi Baez in like the next 30 minutes, I'll be through the moon, and I
got Twitter notifications on. We're good.
Perfect. So if anything happens, please let me know, and I'll just I'll edit anything that happens in this episode. That's obviously good news to have. But Cam, obviously we ended up meeting each other this year through our podcasting class with Mike Montecalvo.
Mm-hmm.
That's been an amazing course so far. I absolutely love that course. How have you been feeling about that so far this semester?
I really enjoyed it. This is my first comm class. I'm a politics and law major, but I love sports, so really I'm enjoying it. I listen to podcasts all the time. Absolutely. This is kind of just like a free gimme class, and I didn't think I'd actually enjoy it, but here I am.
I mean, man, I'm heavily enjoying it. You ended up asking me to come on one of your podcasts for the class, and we had a great time. We ended up shooting the what, had a great time. And obviously I'm now glad to have you on my show as well. So I think it's time now that we actually get into the sports talk of the night. And I think that we got to start off with something that has made the headlines in, I believe, about the last day or so. This actually just came up and, really shaped the entire episode of what I was going to be talking about tonight. And that is surrounding Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown. The man is back in the news again, and I can't with this guy. He's always, listen, Antonio Brown is always up to something. And I mean, do you remember whenever you would hear about Antonio Brown, it would just be like, oh, what a nice punt return by him.
I remember the first Antonio Brown news I can think of is just when he kicked the punter in the face.
Yeah, I mean, but that was on the football field. It was like, yeah. It was like, listen, AB, that's just what happens. Like, but majority of the time, like any AB story, it was just like, oh, Antonio Brown, one of the best wide receivers in football. That's what he does, and that was always the AB news. And then it came to the year he went to the Raiders. Came to 2019 and everything just went down the freaking gutter. I think that when Vontaze Burfict laid that hit on him, man, something got
knocked the sense out of him.
Something in his brain got rewired. I really hope that he actually doesn't have like severe like brain damage as a result of it. But you see the stuff that goes on with that man, and it makes you question things every day. I mean, he ended up requesting a trade of the Raiders, and eventually ended up getting released from them before he even played a single down of football with them. You think of all the controversies with him. He flew into training camp on a hot air balloon. He ended up getting frostbite on his feet for going in a cryotherapy chamber. I mean, he keeps on doing stuff. And these events.
Can't forget about the helmets either.
Yeah, you can't even. Oh my God, the helmets, the freaking helmets. You can't even with this guy. So it doesn't even end with AB. And it doesn't even end with the Raiders or with the Patriots. Even with the Buccaneers, he's still creating controversy. And I'll get into the event that he's now causing. But, he went to the Buccaneers, and I'm like, oh, perfect situation for the guy. He's playing with Tom Brady again, which he wanted to play with. Mm-hmm. And everything seemed like it's lining up. And then I remember hearing a story from him that the man legit threw a bike at a security guard shack while he was down in Florida, like last year. And
I didn't even get to read that. I knew he was disrespectful to security, but he threw the bike.
Yeah, he threw a bicycle at the man. You want to know his response? He ended up just saying, "Yeah, man, I lost my cool that day." I'm like, bro, lost your cool. And so listen, whenever I hear Antonio Brown news now, it just becomes oh, that guy. And unfortunately, it leads us to Oh, shoot. Pause that. Go back. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Something weird just happened with the recording there. So I just wanted to stop that and make sure everything was all set. But, as I was talking about with AB, some of the biggest news happening with him right now across the sports world that just broke yesterday is that he's being accused of acquiring a fake vaccine card by all the people to accuse him of this. This isn't a team doctor. This isn't like some insider. The person accusing him of doing so is his former chef.
You can't make it up. You really can't.
Listen, apparently his chef's name is Steven Ruiz, or his former chef rather. And the reason he's accusing him of this is because his girlfriend, it's because Antonio Brown's girlfriend, or I believe at the time, ended up approaching the chef and asking him where she could acquire like fake vaccine cards for both her and Antonio Brown. And apparently, it was alleged that Antonio Brown got a Johnson & Johnson vaccine card. And I'm just like, and everything is like so sketchy. And listen, there's so much controversy surrounding this, but I'll pass it off to you before I do a deeper dive in it. I know I've been talking for a while, so obviously, man, how are you feeling about this?
It's just another thing. It's Antonio Brown. Honestly, I've come to expect it at this point. It's just controversy after controversy. I mean, there's really no way to prove that there's a fake vaccine card unless I'm mistaken, but I don't really think you can. So yeah. I don't know how accurate the report is. Maybe he just fired his chef and the chef's out to get him. But let's be honest, that's probably not the case. I think it's very clear that he just didn't want to get vaccinated because he's Antonio Brown. Just another controversy here. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Just AB being AB.
Yeah,
it's disappointing, really.
It's disappointing. And listen, I don't care where you stand on the whole vaccine thing. If you don't want to get it, and like my show isn't like it's become so political at this point, and that's not really what I like to talk about on my show. But
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So whether you want to get it, whether you don't want to get it, fine. Do your thing. But when it comes to you like faking credentials and then lying about stuff, in like the case of like what people are now doing with the Aaron Rodgers situation, that's when it becomes like a different situation. If it's just listen, you can say what you want about Kyrie Irving, but at the same time, but he's come out and he's just said, I'm not getting vaccinated. And
yeah, I'm on record as being one of the biggest Kyrie haters in the world. I think he's a lying snake. Yeah, but I appreciate the fact that he
didn't lie in this situation.
Nope.
And
exactly.
So with Antonio Brown, I mean, he's also not the only high profile athlete to fake vaccine credentials. I was mentioning. You think of Evander Kane with the San Jose Sharks. I believe that was official. He did actually.
Yes, that was proved. That was absolutely proved.
Yeah, I mean that one was terrible, and because you're playing hockey, you're going over the border constantly.
So look at the Senators; they have a breakout right now.
Yeah, you're gonna get checked for that. So there's so many things going on with the whole AB thing, and like even if the chef is making stuff up, why is AB bringing so many toxic people into his life like this?
It's just AB. He is toxic. That's.
You
gotta look at the big picture too. If he is in fact lying about it, he's putting his teammates in danger. Say one of their teammates is immune compromised or their wife is immune compromised, and they bring that home. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, a football player is probably in a good immune system where that's not going to affect them. But you got to think about just don't be so selfish. Like, if you don't want to get it, say you don't have the vaccine. It's just AB being AB. Drives me insane.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the NFL now, they basically, I think they put out a memorandum or something yesterday saying that, they're going to be treating everyone regardless of vaccination status. They're going to be going to like older protocols where they're testing everyone, I think, weekly again, because they're saying there's like a surge in cases. So as maybe in the long scheme of things, like everyone's going to essentially be under the same protections. But again, when you're again, it's all alleged at this point, and you're allegedly faking credentials.
Exactly.
There's so many things that can just go wrong for you. And listen, you want to say that AB is being framed, but with all the crap that AB's done, it's really tough to
you can't take his side in pretty much anything. He's never done the right thing.
I will say this though, Bruce Arians did come out and he ended up saying, "Oh, we did our due diligence. We believe he's vaccinated." So, and another thing too is the report doesn't actually claim that Antonio Brown is unvaccinated. It claims that he has the card.
Yeah, the fake card. That's correct.
He could have received a vaccine in the time since.
Absolutely.
So that's still within the realm of possibilities. And man, I just got to tell you, I've been doing this show. It'll be 2 years that I've been doing the show in February. That since I started it. I freaking hate the majority of it. I've had to talk about COVID on at least on the majority of my episodes. COVID's come up in some capacity.
I believe it.
And I'm just like, listen, I know it's still out there. I know that like they're still like developing things with it. And like with guys like being out for COVID, that's like a different story. But with all these, like, there's so much drama that doesn't need to be had. And Antonio Brown is just like another guy stirring the freaking pot.
Hey, that's just typically AB. I think it's very clear you know how I feel about him by now.
Yeah, no, I have very similar feelings. I mean, listen, when the Pats brought him over in 2019, I was through the moon.
I was ecstatic. I can tell you where I was. I was walking out of my job at Dollar Tree. I looked down at my phone and got the notification, a Shefty bomb. Patriot sign, Antonio Brown, once he passes through waivers or something. I was through the roof.
I can tell you where I was. I was here my freshman year at Bryant, and like classes hadn't started yet. They were doing like orientation sessions, and they had like a bingo session over in like one of the buildings, like obviously Bryant University, big bingo school here. We ended up, so they were having a bingo session, obviously, to do some giveaways. And I remember just like I walk at my friend John calls me, and he's been on the show before, and he calls me and he goes, I need to talk to you right now. And I'm like, what's up? And he goes, yo, the Pats just signed AB. And I end up going on Twitter. I'm seeing all the notifications come through. And then I like walk back into the bingo meeting and the like bingo thing. And at Bryant, there's like 150 people in like a bingo room. It makes no sense. But I walk back in and like no one knows. I'm like through the moon, and everyone's just looking at me and they're basically like, dude, what is your problem? I'm just like, we signed AB. We signed AB.
Oh, I get it. I was blowing up the fantasy football group chat the second I got the notification.
That was an amazing 11 days.
Oh yeah, great 11 days. Day 12 wasn't so great.
Yeah, no, things didn't go too good. There were some obviously some unfortunate events, and then AB just was never seen again until he came back. It's so bad, man. I mean,
it's a shame. He's an incredible football player. It's just he can't get his mind right.
The man caught what, 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl last year? A touchdown in the Super Bowl last year? My mind is.
He definitely caught one. I'm not sure.
I know he caught one. 2. Yeah, I mean, he caught a touchdown in the Super. Yeah, he caught a touchdown in the freaking Super Bowl last year. Like this guy, like he's still a high producing athlete. It's not like he's like this grizzled vet who's like barely able to hold on anymore.
Exactly. He's still able to freaking, such crisp routes. I mean,
he's still
I can't remember which game it was. He's running routes that like 3/4 of the NFL can't do.
Yeah, he's still able to produce, man. And it just makes you like scratch your head where it's like it just feels like he has so much talent. And just all the off the field crap that you throw at it just makes it so unbearable to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Unbearable is a perfect word to describe it.
Yeah, it's so bad, man. But listen, when it comes to the Bucs, even if AB had to go down, let's be frank, the Bucs still are loaded.
Oh, they're fine. They're fine.
And
send more targets to my boy Chris Godwin. Get those fantasy numbers up.
Oh yeah, you're on the Godwin train.
Hey, he's wide receiver 2 for me.
Oh my God, who's your wide receiver 1?
Oh, D-Hop.
Oh my God, dude. I gotta tell you, my fantasy team this year struggling hard. Just been.
Oh, I got to win out to make playoffs.
Really? Oh, dude, yeah. I gotta tell you right now, I had some high expectations and just have had some guys that just are not performing to where you thought they were. I selected Dalvin Cook, just has not really been, just hasn't been that guy this year.
Yep. No, I feel you.
It's tough. So it's. Fantasy is always a kind of an up and down game. I'm usually in better shape than I am right now, but so hopefully I make a major comeback in 2022. Yeah. That's I think this season's kind of a wash for me at this point.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
I gotta win out. I'm looking good, but we'll see.
Yeah, it sucks. And whatever happens to Antonio Brown, you're gonna have, with him, you really always just kind of have to. You're basically on pins and needles the whole time. So we'll have to see how this development plays out. But also in NFL news, what I wanted to talk with you about is our Patriots ended up having a heck of a game last night against the Atlanta Falcons. They ended up winning 25-0. I'd be surprised if Matt Ryan is walking today.
Oh my God. The line is just fantastic. I was so happy watching that game.
Do you ever see an opposing quarterback get beat down so bad you actually feel bad for him?
I was laughing. It was the second quarter, and I was laughing out loud sitting on the couch talking to my dad about how just embarrassing it is for the Falcons.
I mean, here's the thing. Arthur Smith, I mean, whatever they're trying to put together there, you could see the look on his face of him knowing I'm a first-year coach that's about to get fired.
I think he's a solid coach. Honestly, I think there's no one on that offensive line to protect Matt Ryan.
I think he's a solid coach, but unfortunately, the NFL usually never associate problems with it being anything but the coach. It's like, oh, we need to take out the coach. We need to take out the coach.
Absolutely,
and that's usually how it goes. I mean, listen, Matt Ryan should be in the MVP conversation for having this team even have 4 wins. It's remarkable what he's doing with this team.
Absolutely.
It is a miracle because they frankly could have like one or have 1 or 2 if I'm being honest with you right now.
It's being nice.
I mean,
based on their performance yesterday.
The last 4 or 5 days for them have been probably the worst. Probably been the worst 4 or 5 days I've ever seen for a football team. They scored 3 against the Cowboys, get shut out against the Pats, and listen, in my opinion, the Pats didn't even have their best game.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think we saw our defense stand on their head. Offense, was solid, but there's definitely room for improvement with Mack there.
The defense, man, was. Listen, I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing an NFL team, getting a shutout in this day and age is impressive. It doesn't matter if you're playing literally the Jacksonville Jaguars or whoever is competing for the number 1 overall pick. If you're getting a shutout against any team in the NFL, that has to be commended because. Usually, even in most blowouts, there's some fluke field goal at the end of the game that usually
just garbage time going down.
Exactly. Some 4th string quarterback makes some amazing Hail Mary play.
Look at Brian Hoyer last week. He threw a touchdown.
Yeah, he got Jacoby Myers first.
Yeah.
So it happens. It happened in so many games. But the fact that they were able to get the shutout and be as dominant as they were on defense just speaks volumes about this team. I mean, they had 4 picks split amongst J.C. Jackson, Devin McCourty, Kyle Van Noy, and Adrian Phillips. Now, I know a couple of those were in essentially garbage time, but for the majority of the game, it was actually relatively close. It was within 2 scores for the majority of the game. And you think about it, I think that JC and Devin had them earlier in the game, but Kyle Van Noy had the pick 6, which essentially at that point was just sealed
the game there.
The coffin was closing. That was the final. That was the final nail. It just said, all right, we're done. You guys have no shot now. And then I mean, that final stretch for the Falcons was some of the ugliest football I've ever seen in my life. I mean,
it was terrible.
They get Matt Ryan out because they're trying to save his life, and they bring in
Josh. Dude was gonna die out there.
Yeah, then they bring in Josh Rosen. I'm just like, oh, Josh Rosen, he's kind of had a rough go.
Oh, you knew a pick was coming the second you saw Rosen walk on the field.
I got to tell you, I saw Rosen. I was like, you know what? Maybe you could build some value, have a garbage time kind of, drive. I'm just like, oh, maybe
more optimistic than I am.
I'm like, maybe he can put some stuff together, maybe establish himself as a backup somewhere else and, get a contract. Nope. Just first pass. Literally looks like a shortstop going over second base by sidearming that crab right into Van Noy's arms. That was terrible. And then the Falcons have the audacity to say, all right, that didn't work. Let's get this guy Felipe Franks, and they bring this guy out there.
He is a baseball player, by the way. He came in as a baseball player.
Was he actually?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love.
Don't quote me on this, but I believe he was selected by the Red Sox.
Oh, I mean, listen, man, team's still open for it. I mean, it doesn't look like football's working out. I mean, listen, Fenway might be calling your name, man.
I don't know. He was a late round pick, if my math is correct. Let me give this a quick Google search.
All right.
Yes, he was a Red Sox pick. 2019 MLB draft and 31st round.
What was he?
I want to say he was a shortstop, and I'm correct. He was a shortstop.
Listen, Felipe, we might be moving Bogey to second soon, depending on how things go. Listen, it doesn't look like football is the ultimate.
He threw a nice dart right to Phillips.
It was a magnificent dart. So listen, man, come over to baseball. You don't need to worry about throwing to any defenders. You're just throwing to your guys. So if you want to come over,
right in the glove.
Exactly, hit him right in the glove because I mean you have to hit Bob right in the glove. You can't hit him anywhere else because some bad things could happen if you don't hit Bob right in the glove. So you have to watch out for that. So listen, man, the opportunity is still there. Please, Felipe Frank, come over to baseball. We'll take you in with loving arms. You'll probably be better than Franchi Cordero.
Oh,
yeah, that one still irks me. But kind of getting back on the paths. We'll touch on the Red Sox and some other things, in baseball in a little bit. But, as I was saying, the offense wasn't anything to really scoff at. Mack Jones, he had a nice touchdown to Nelson Aguilar. That was a nice ball, but he also had a kind of not so great pick. And
yeah, I think that's on Jonnu Smith there. I hate to get on the guy because I think he's a solid player. He just doesn't seem to fight for the ball. He just seems like he kind of goes through the motions and the routes.
Yeah.
When the throw came, he just kind of watched it and just looked at it. He didn't try to stop the pick. He just kind of watched it. He's done that before. I want to say it was the Texans game. It was the game he had all the drops. I can't recall which game that was.
The Saints game. That was the Saints game.
Well, the Saints game. Yes, that's exactly it. He just doesn't seem to fight for the pass. I love the guy. I think he's a great yak kind of guy. The second he gets hit, yards after carry, boom, he's good there. But he just doesn't fight for the throw, and that drives me insane.
It drives me nuts too. He just hasn't really materialized since he's been here. Hunter Henry, on the other end, has been he's been nails for us.
I've loved him since he came out of Arkansas. He was on every fantasy football team of mine.
I got to give my grandfather so much credit when I thought he was Alabama.
No, Arkansas.
Okay, I mean, I might be confusing with someone else, but I remember
Irv Smith. You thinking of?
Maybe, yeah. I might be thinking Irv Smith for some reason, but I remember my grandfather, who is a huge college football guy. He knows everyone in the freaking thing. He's amazing with it, and he ended up saying to me, "Oh, there's this guy Hunter Henry. He's a beast." And I remember I was like, "Oh, okay." He ended up saying, "Oh, he's gonna be the next Gronkowski. He's gonna be the next tight. Oh yeah, he's gonna be the next great tight end."
He was fantastic in college.
Exactly, and he was saying, "Oh, the Pats are gonna a team like the Patriots would love a guy like this if they could get their hands on him." I was like,
I believe he came out a couple years after the Hernandez arrest, I should say. And he was projected to go to the Pats, but the Chargers actually traded up in the second round to get him.
Yeah, and he had a career with the Chargers that was fine. I mean, he had his ups and downs, but I think at times
he couldn't stay healthy. I think if he stayed healthy, you'd be seeing the Hunter Henry we're getting now that would have been on the Chargers.
Yeah, because Hunter Henry now is outstanding. I mean, he had a slow start here in New England too, but he is absolutely just taken off with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what he's been able to do. But Mack Jones, he had 200 passing yards in this game. Wasn't anything really crazy.
First half was great. I want to say he had 196 yards, and the second half kind of fizzled out. I think that was kind of the way the game was going, though. It was just going to kind of be a hard-nosed, smash-mouth football game.
Yeah. So, listen, I think that, he ended up, being a game manager and doing that for the second half. Yeah. And listen,
that's really all you can ask for. I mean, I was happy with it.
And I mean, listen, it got the job done. And listen, the Falcons, when they're performing like that, that's fine. But I just know when it comes to us playing the Titans in, 10 days from now, we're going to have to bring a little more emphasis.
Oh yeah. I think we're going to see a different Mack Jones for that game.
That's what I'm hoping.
He's going to be a little more than a game manager.
That's what my hope is. Cause I think they saw what the Falcons are bringing. They kind of just packed it in. So
yeah, exactly.
So I hope
that kind of fit the game better.
Yeah, I hope Matt can turn it on a little bit more against the Titans. That's my hope. But another big guy who really impressed me in the game was Randra Stevenson. He only had 69 rush yards. But listen, when you give that man the ball, he is a human wrecking ball. And I remember seeing that we drafted this guy, and I looked up his game film as soon as we drafted him, and I was immediately through the roof when I saw this guy, because I was like, he's LeGarrette Blount 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. That was his thing coming out of college. I followed them a little bit. I'm a big Oregon fan. I'm a big college football fan as it is. So Oklahoma, I watched a little bit of. He stuck out to me. He definitely did. I didn't know he was referred to as the mini Blunt. So I was pretty happy with it. I knew about it a little bit. Yeah, I didn't really expect the Patriots to draft him, but I was thrilled.
Yeah, no, I really love him so far. I think that Bill is still in the process of kind of handing over the keys to him officially and being like, hey, you're our guy, let's go. Because they still got Damian Harris, who is obviously great for us.
Yeah.
But when it gets to a high leverage situation, they can actually give it to Randra Stevenson and have him go. I cannot wait.
I honestly think we're good with both backs. I don't think either back's really going to hurt us.
I agree.
I know Stevenson. I just love seeing him with a stiff arm. Reminds me of Gronk throwing people out of the club.
I love it so much. I freaking Gronk throwing people club. I love that so much, man.
I think it's a testament to Bill. Everyone, the book on him was, he can't draft, he can't sign players now. I mean, you look at this game. Kyle Duggar had played his best game of his career, I'd want to say. He shut down Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts only caught 2 balls when Duggar was covering him. You look at Phillips, he got a pick. You think of Van Noy. Van Noy had 2 sacks. He had the pick 6. Meanwhile, the Dolphins are paying him to play for us.
Yeah.
We brought him back. That's another. You got to give Bill credit there. You look at Mack. You look at Stevenson. That's literally Bill took over, and you're seeing the fruits of his labor in this game.
In my opinion, this was Bill's best draft in probably 5-6 years, probably.
Oh, I think you could even argue this could turn out to be the best draft of his career,
because he ended up getting Mack Jones, Randra Stevenson, and Barmore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
also really high on Ronnie Perkins too. He's
really?
Getting the redshirt year, but he was fantastic in college. He's definitely really raw. That's why he's getting the redshirt year. But he has really good moves. I think you got to watch out for him next year. He kind of strikes me as like a Dietrich Wise kind of guy. If you look at Wise, he had a redshirt year too, and now look at him. So if Perkins can be Wise, that's a steal of a draft class.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, this could end up being like one of Bill's best draft classes. And I am one of the guys, I am kind of one of those guys who's always kind of been skeptical of Bill. I've always just been like, I don't really know, if he can get it right. This one, I think that he really got a lot right. And, barring injury, I think that he's in great shape. Sure.
Yeah, no, I like to follow the saying, in Bill we trust, and in Bill I trust.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's basically what we have in NFL news for you guys tonight. Moving on into NHL news. And I know I don't talk about NHL on this show nearly enough, you guys. So I'm glad that I'm going to be able to discuss it on the show. I actually, it was actually one of the main topics on my last show, which for anyone who listens is very surprising, because my hockey knowledge is essentially.
And I wasn't here for it.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry, man. My hockey knowledge sucks. So I ended up having to, kind of rely on others to do it. I mean, I'm rocking the Bruins tonight, rocking the Pasta jersey.
That's what we like to see.
So listen, obviously a huge Bruins fan myself. I love watching them. But in NHL news, which I'm glad to talk with you about, is, the Bruins schedule, which I wasn't really, I had heard rumblings about this, and it wasn't something that I truly understood how it was working. I mean, I know that NHL obviously is a very, very aggressive sport, and guys are, need to kind of recover. In my opinion, I think they need more load management than guys that are in the NBA. But
absolutely.
But when I was hearing about the way that this Bruins schedule is coming out, it's ridiculous. So Cam, I'll actually let you kind of take the lead with this one.
I mean, it's asinine what they're doing. So the Bruins last played Sunday night, and they don't play again until Saturday night. They have that's the ideal work week. I love that.
Oh yeah.
But for hockey players,
it sounds like they're playing in the NFL.
Yeah, literally, they have a bye week. There's no such thing as a bye week in the NHL when it's on a regular schedule. There is a bye week, however, this isn't their scheduled bye week. So it might be great for them now. They got to do a little charity event and going shopping for underprivileged kids at Target. I don't know if you saw that. That was on their Instagram stories. That's awesome. A big thing they do yearly, but they can do that when they're still playing games. They don't need 5-6 days off. It's really going to just hurt it in the back end when they're fighting for a playoff spot, and they have pretty much back-to-backs almost every night for their last month of the season. That's asking for injury there, but we have a whole week off in the beginning of the season.
Yeah. So do you know exactly what prompted this? Was this due to COVID? Was this just like bad
It was
scheduling?
Just the schedule makers that no one seems to understand it. The Bruins players don't like it either. I mean, it's going to hurt them down the road when they're fighting for their playoff lives, because they don't look too good this year. Yeah. That's a different topic. They're fighting for their playoff lives down the line, and they don't have any breaks to rest and recover.
I mean, yeah, it also kind of makes you wonder, like, listen, a lot, for some teams, there's ups, there's, pluses and positives and negatives for, having time off. One, you're able to recoup, you're able to, refresh, and then, and essentially you could hit the ice hard and, go out there and play your next team. But at the same time, you can get cold because you're not, getting that game action. And I know, again, these guys are professional athletes. And for many of them, they've been doing it all of their lives. So I'm not saying that the Bruins are going to go out there and forget how to play freaking hockey. Of course, I'm not saying that.
No, you're absolutely right. The beginning of the year was the same thing. You saw it in the beginning of the year. I think they had only played like 2 or 3 games, and I think 3/4 of the league had played 7. So they're getting all this time off at the beginning, and you know what? They're not rusty, but I mean, first periods are a little slow. You don't have your legs when you're playing hockey. You need the legs, and everyone else has their legs. So I don't understand why the schedule is like this. That's pretty much the sentiment with every Bruins beat reporter, Bruins fan, Bruins player. It just seems like they kind of tried to screw the Bruins this year.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out later down the stretch. And if the Bruins just kind of get gassed down the stretch and guys, really just, can't stand that final stretch, if this will be a topic that is revisited, if they,
I definitely think it will be.
I mean,
I definitely do.
Not if they don't make the playoffs, because I think that they have a good shot of still doing
so. I think they're a playoff team.
Yeah,
there may be a wild card or a 3 seed, something like that.
Exactly, yeah. But if it affects them at maybe even going into playoffs and they just aren't able to, recover and get the, health and treatment that they need, I'm wondering if this will be something that is revisited.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it coming down the line. It's just everyone's so physical in hockey. You try to play through it, but there's times where you can't. And it destroys your legs. It just seems asinine for them to do this. And then at the end of the year, they have almost back-to-backs for the last month. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so freaking weird because, I mean, listen, I'm not the biggest load management guy. I'm not saying you need to have guys playing back-to-backs and like every other, like whenever, and like do stuff like that. Obviously not. But, when you see guys having like 4, 5, freaking 6 days off, and it's not like a scheduled bye week, it's like, what is going on?
No, it doesn't make sense. That's the sentiment from every hockey fan I know. It just seems like they were out to get the Bruins, if I do say so myself.
I mean, why are they prompted to get the Bruins this year? What did we do to them? Like we weren't even in the cup this year. Like we didn't even make the cup final. Like what's going on? I mean,
meanwhile, the Lightning can put a bunch of players on long-term IR.
Oh my God.
And win the cup.
Jesus. Yeah, no.
That's a sore subject with me.
Yeah. I mean, another sore subject that I got to ask you about is the play of our goalies this year. So listen, I know we brought in Ullmark, and then who else did we bring in?
So we have Swayman, who called up last year.
Yeah, we still got Swayman, and then we brought in Ullmark, I know.
Yep.
So
Tuukka's gone.
So yeah, Tuukka is he still just a free agent? Like just
he's a free agent. He's coming back from hip surgery, so I don't think he's ready to play yet.
Yeah,
he was seen on Warrior Ice Arena, practicing, getting back to playing speed, but I still don't think he's ready.
So he is practicing on.
He is
Boston's
a free agent.
ice?
Yeah, he can sign with any team he wants.
But he's practicing on Boston's ice.
Yes, he lives in Boston, so that was kind of to be seen. But he's been on the record saying he will only play for the Boston Bruins. But lately, there's rumors coming out that maybe the Oilers are interested in him.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, listen, while our goalies, I mean, I know we spent some money on goalies this offseason, and it was something, and it caught a lot of people by surprise. But I know that there's been some inconsistency over there, and I think we brought Ullmark in from Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo, actually.
Yeah, and
I think he was 5x5.
Yeah,
so $5 million AAV wasn't too bad. We didn't really spend that much on him when you look at the rest of the league's goalies around.
And I know a bunch of people. I guess the argument with people saying was that, oh, he may have allowed a bunch of goals, but he was playing for the Sabres, so and the Sabres suck, so there were more. He was put in bad opportunities, and I know he's kind of had a bit of a shakier start since he's gotten with the Bruins. So, in your opinion, do you want Rask back if he could get healthy, or how do you feel about this situation?
I'm really torn on that topic. We signed Ullmark. I actually liked Ullmark in Buffalo. Yeah. I know you're not a fan of underlying numbers, but I think underlying numbers can tell you a lot. If you look at his save percentage, not so much his goals against, because goals against were not good, just because you're playing behind the Sabres. But when you look at his save percentage,
listen, you're essentially playing with a peewee team at that point.
That's being generous.
You're screwed. You're screwed.
Yep. I was a fan of the signing at the time. I'm not quite sure what happened to him. He doesn't look like himself all of a sudden. I really like Swayman. I'm a big Swayman fan. I liked him when he was coming out of Maine. I think he's just a great guy to have around. I think him and Ullmark are best friends. If you kind of look into it, they have the little post-game hug that they get all excited for. So I don't think we get rid of Ullmark, and I think Swayman's the future.
I will say this.
Bring back Tuukka. There's not really space for him. We could use his play though. So
I will say this. I will say I actually did see Swayman down the stretch. I like what he can bring to the table. I mean, he looks like he's able to freaking stand on his head and and not in like a bad sense. Like he seems like he can actually go out there and just
he's capable of stealing games for you, no question about it.
Exactly. He is so freaking flexible. Like he is.
He's insane. He's not your typical goalie either. Like Tuukka was a big butterfly goalie. He kind of likes to stand up. He flexes the glove, his blocker. He's not a big butterfly goalie. And that's something I like. I don't love butterfly goalies. I was on Rask a lot. I think Tuca, there's no doubt about it. He was one of the best goalies in franchise history.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he fits the new style of hockey. He's quite honestly one of the worst shootout goalies I've ever seen. And Swayman isn't. Swayman's good at that. So I don't know. It's hard to argue. Tuca had a great year last year, minus the playoffs. So it'd be nice if we had Swayman to play like Tuca, but I'm not particularly sure I want Tuca back.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a catch-22. He was great with the locker room too. Everyone in the locker room loved Tuca. So I don't know. It's a tough question.
Yeah, I guess another guy too that is being questioned about a possible return would be Krejci. I know that he did announce that he's going to play with what his
he played with his hometown Czech team.
Yeah, so he's going to play with his hometown Czech team. There are some speculations that when their season ends that he could, he ended up saying, I guess in his farewell address, that he ended up saying, "Oh, this isn't a goodbye," and that usually comes from any player that's stepping away, just being like, "This isn't a goodbye. I'm going to be involved in the city. I'm going to do stuff like that."
Mm-hmm.
But everyone took it as a sense of, "Oh, he may not be officially done as a Bruin." Do you think that there's any chance that if the Bruins are in need of some help down the stretch, that David Krejci could make a return?
Well, I'll give you a little spoiler alert. We do need help already.
Yeah, I listen. I know. I'm just saying. I mean, if we already need help already, but I know I don't think we can bring Krejci over until a little bit later. But yeah,
I'm not sure when we can.
Yeah.
I know if we bring him over, once the season's over, he's going to be subject to waivers, which that's really not a problem. Any team that claims him, he's just going to say, "I won't play for you." I do think we see Krejci back, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You saw it with Mike Fisher. They retire and they just come back for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think if we're in good shape, if Krejci's still healthy, he decides, hey, my season's over in the Czech. My team needs me. If we can make a deep playoff run, I'll join you. What would be ideal is if he doesn't have to go through waivers, so another team can't just claim him to block him from getting to us.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you see Krejci coming back. He was such a big part of the team, the locker room, the city. I'm convinced. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a Bruins homer, but you saw it happen with Mike Fisher. He's too invested in this team to not come back, I think.
Yeah, I really want to see Krejci back as well. He's one of those guys that you grew up with. So I mean, Listen, I just want to see him back on this team just for the pure sake of it. So I hope that he does end up making a return.
Yeah, he had great chemistry with Hall once they traded for him.
100%.
I don't want to get on Coyle either.
Those guys were amazing together.
Yeah, I like Coyle. I think he's a great third line center. He's not a second line center. He really can't get chemistry going with Hall, which is hurting our second line because Hall isn't a driver himself. Which you saw that in Arizona, you saw that in Buffalo, you saw that in New Jersey every year other than his MVP year. He's not a driver. He needs someone to drive and find him where he's going to finish it. And Krejci and him were the perfect pair, I think. You saw that just in overtimes, 4-on-4. They were unreal together. It's just all the open ice. I think Krejci and Hall were such a good match. And when you listen to Krejci's retirement speech, his main reasons for retiring was that he wanted his kids to experience life in Czech. They've done that. They spent the whole year there. So I think you could definitely see him coming back and living in the States.
That's what I'm hoping as well. So, hopefully we get to see the return of David Krejci. That'd be amazing to see. Before we end up leaving NHL news, something really quick that I want to touch on that I ended up actually mentioning in my Wednesday show. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out once you're done with this. And that was the decision that of Red Sox principal owner John Henry making the decision along with Fenway Sports Group to buy the Pittsburgh Penguins and the implications of that. How are you feeling about that? I obviously talked about it on my show, but I'll let you talk about it.
I'm a little torn. I personally hate Jeremy Jacobs. I think he's quite literally one of the worst owners in all of pro sports. He doesn't spend money on the team. He just wants to make money. I would have been thrilled if Fenway Sports Group were to acquire the Bruins, but Jacobs knows he's getting a lot of money from the Bruins, so he'd never sell them. So it's hard to get on Fenway Sports Group for not buying like a hometown team. You have the Red Sox. I understand it. The Penguins are a great organization. I mean, you look at the history there. I understand why they want to buy that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I already said it during my show. I said, as a business decision, I can't do anything but commend the deal. I mean, if you can purchase a team like the Penguins,
it's a fantastic business decision.
Absolutely. My decision was my grief with them was just about, you're purchasing. I mean, it's not direct rival, but it's pretty, right. It's rival.
Oh yeah, big time.
It's
2013. I remember the 2013 Cup run. We hated the Penguins just because that's who we played in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they got a Ginla when we tried to trade for him, and he chose them. I don't particularly have so much of a rivalry with the Penguins as I do say the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens.
Yeah, obviously.
Still, it doesn't sit well with me, but I totally understand why you did it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean that's my thing. Again, as a business decision, it's fine. But I mean, if push comes to shove, and then the Penguins are like celebrating in TD Garden, you see John Henry up in the opposing like booth, like high fiving.
Crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And maybe the Penguins, get a top for maybe I don't know. Say McJesus gets out there and is available, and the Pens outbid the Bruins.
Oh, that's a nightmare for me.
That's what I'm saying. And then the next time you walk into Fenway, the guy who owns that place is the guy who took that guy away from the Bruins.
Yep. No, that would be
that's what
don't
sits
even put
wrong
that thought in my mind.
Yeah. So if freaking McDavid gets away from freaking Edmonton, and the Bruins and the Penguins, it comes down like just some dream scenario, or could be essentially nightmare scenario as well. Comes down to it, and the Penguins, because of all this new money in their revenue, are able to outbid the Bruins, and it's just like, I mean that's just a punch in the gut.
Yeah. The Penguins right now, they're barreling towards a rebuild. You look at it, they're a bunch of old bodies. They still got Sid and Gino. Hey, if Henry wants to make good with the Red Sox fans, he could send Sid our way, and we could have a redo of the Canadian Olympic line. We'll get Sid,
oh my God,
Bergie, and Marshy on the line one.
That'd be amazing.
I'll take that all day long.
Oh, I love that so much.
That'd be a nice peace offering. I'd accept.
Oh, I mean, listen, I'd heavily appreciate that peace offering.
I'll even take Gino if he really wants.
I mean, listen, I'll do whatever. But yeah. But no. So I mean, again, as a business decision, you got to commend it. I mean, listen, the man's going to spend his bread and do what he has to do. It is what it is. I do think that it has some potential downsides of how much money he can invest in the Red Sox. He's come out and said that doesn't affect it. Well, I think otherwise, but
that definitely does.
But yeah, that kind of concludes what I have in NHL news. However, so before we do go, Cam, I want to talk some baseball with you, and I know that you're a baseball guy, so I wanted to I wanted to talk some baseball with you, and I had mentioned the Red Sox during the show. Any updates?
Let me give it a check. I don't think so. The Yankees made a trade, but
really, what they?
Yeah, it was just a clear 40-man room. Oh, actually, look at this. We just got a big news here. The Yankees DFA'd Clint Frazier and Rougned Odor.
And Rougned? Oh shoot! Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was super high on Clint too. The Yankees, the franchise ruined him, but
yeah.
Hey,
damn,
I wouldn't mind picking him up.
That's actually some pretty decent news. I mean, that might fly under the radar when some of the bigger free agent news comes in, but Rougned Odor, was kind of a big piece that they were trying to go after and get. I know that his average may have suffered at times, but also his beard suffered as well. But
he was a star with the Rangers.
Oh my God! But so
they signed him to an inflated contract, didn't work, and the Yankees took over.
Yeah, so those are actually some pretty decent deals. I'll be interested to see how that breaks out and where those guys go later on this offseason. But what I want to talk with you mainly in MLB news was the fact that the MVP awards were announced last night. And unfortunately with baseball, they have like the worst timing for announcing things. Ugh. I know with them, I think they announced the Gold Glove ceremony during the middle of like Sunday Night Football.
Yep, right in the middle of Sunday Night Football. So absolutely no one was watching the Gold Glove ceremony.
I'm just like, listen, not everyone has MLB Network in general, and no one's and people may not tune into this thing anyways. But so it's already a tough market to get. But when you're having an award ceremony, competing against the number one rated football broadcast in the nation, it just makes you scratch your head and just like it's
clear the commissioner just
Rob
doesn't
Manfred
care about growing the game. He's pretty much said like it's not going to change. This is how it's going to be. Yeah. And I don't know if you listen to Starting Nine, Dallas Braden puts it perfectly. The commissioner isn't interested in advancing the game.
No,
for whatever reason, he doesn't think it's a good idea. I think you look at the NFL's model, the NHL's model, do it all in one night. The NFL Honors Award show. I watch that every year. It's a great show.
Yeah, they do a good job producing it.
Exactly.
MLB, they hold it. They hold it. I know, but in like Secaucus, New Jersey, or wherever the hell they hold it.
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you where they hold it.
They hold it in like some basement. They get like no one to show up. It's all virtual, and it's just like it's the entire presentation of it is just sad.
Yeah, it really is. It looks like a high school's production, honestly.
Exactly. It looks like it could be like my local like DVC All-Stars award.
Yep, that's a perfect way to put it.
I'm like, this is it. This is all you guys do. It just looks like they have better cameras, to be frank. That's
Yeah.
it.
Meanwhile, you got Shohei Ohtani winning MVP.
Yeah.
That right there should be such a marketing point. You have someone breaking records that haven't been done since 1900s. Babe Ruth is the last person to do what Shohei Ohtani's doing.
Yeah.
He won MVP unanimously, and we're showing it in a little basement, and no one has any idea it's even going on.
Exactly. So that was what happened with the Shohei Ohtani Award. So he ended up winning the award unanimously over Vlad Guerrero Jr., which actually was shocking. The fact that Vlad didn't get a single vote. I mean, listen,
I wasn't surprised. I didn't see him getting any.
Listen. Shohei obviously had an amazing year, and I expected him to win the MVP. But the fact that Vlad got none, I mean, listen, Vlad tore up the league this year. He was insane.
Oh, he was a beast. Absolutely.
I mean,
but he didn't take the ball every 6 days.
No, exactly. So I get the fact that Ohtani literally is changing the game of baseball right now, but I am shocked that he didn't get a singular vote. That was the shocking point to me. And then obviously over in the NL, Bryce Harper ended up winning the MVP award for his respective league, and that's a crazy story in and of itself because the man didn't even make the All-Star team this year.
No, I mean the NL was kind of, you couldn't go wrong picking any of the three. Yeah. I was more on the Soto train. I think Soto had a better season just because of what was around him. It was easy to pitch around him. You look at the final, I can't recall who it was. It was a series before the Red Sox. I think he walked more times than any series previously. No one wants to pitch to Soto, and that's what made him so good, is that he still had that average. He still had all those homers when people were pitching around him because the rest of the lineup was a bunch of AAA players.
Yeah. I mean, so you were on the Soto train?
I was, definitely.
Okay. So that's one of the interesting things for me. So before I do get into this, I have like a kind of a funny Bryce Harper story. So I ended up, before he, really went on the tear this year, I actually ended up going to a Mets game over in New York this year. My brother was playing over there for some baseball tournaments. So
nice.
ended up going into New York, ended up catching, it was actually a DeGrom game. And it was like,
lucky you.
It was when DeGrom was in the middle of like his historic run. Mm-hmm. And everyone thought he was going to break Bob Gibson's record and do all that stuff. So it was like that when I ended up finding out I was going to a DeGrom start, I remember I was like freaking out because like it was like right when he, and
that's awesome. Yeah.
You want to know the thing too? It was the game, right? It was the game where he gave up the run like for the first time in like those 30 something innings too.
So you're not allowed to go to any more DeGrom games.
I was like, you got to be joking with me. And dude, that was sick because like, man, it was warm-ups. The man is walking out to the bullpen. He was getting MVP chance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, deservedly so too.
Because he was just being a beast at the time. And I remember seeing the game, and we were actually in right field, so we were just like watching Bryce Harper the entire time, which was the funniest part. And so many Mets fans heckled the ever-loving crap out of the man. I remember one guy was calling him stuff that I just can't call him on the air. Like literally, and they like. Have you ever just seen a cartoon where you hear someone like shout something in the distance?
Hey, I was the Red Sox playoff game where Altuve made those errors. I know exactly what the fans are shouting. Yeah, and you literally just hear like a very distant "you suck." Like it's like so it's hilarious. Like when you hear this stuff going down, and it can get pretty vulgar. It can get pretty brutal. I mean, stuff that I definitely don't. Even though this is a podcast and I'm not on radio, still stuff that I just can't say on air. But there were so many. Bryce Harper, obviously, actually another funny moment from that game as well is, obviously not on Bryce's part, but he ended up, I think, rolling his ankle or getting injured during the game. So he ended up leaving the game, and the Phillies ended up bringing in Jankowski to play right field for them. And he was playing right field. And like the guy was like saying something like Bryce the entire game to the effect of like, hey Bryce, you suck. And like, it was like, he would say other stuff in between. I'm not going to say what he actually said, but when that guy came out here, this guy, he didn't heckle number 9. He just said, hey, number 9, tell Bryce he sucks. The man didn't even want to heckle this guy. He just wanted to heckle Bryce like so badly. That was the best part. But at the end of the day, Bryce kind of got the last laugh. Yeah. Yeah, he did. Honestly, I'm not super. I'm a big Bryce Harper fan. I tend to bandwagon the Nationals, so that's kind of why I like Soto over Harper. But I do love Bryce Harper. You couldn't go wrong picking him for the MLB, for the MVP either.
Yeah.
Again, it was
So
just a toss up.
yeah. So regardless of Harper and Soto, one of the interesting things that I saw was with either award was that none of the finalists even like it wasn't even that the winner didn't make the playoffs.
Yep.
None of the three finals from either league were on teams that made the playoffs this year.
That's correct.
And that's something to me that doesn't exactly sit right. Because listen, you can make the case for Mike Trout earning his MVP awards in certain years over others where he just goes off and statistically is the best player in all of baseball. But when you talk about the MVP, the most valuable player award, and it's given to all of these 6 finalists are on teams that did not even play effectively in October. That doesn't exactly sit right with me. I feel like you have to have one that at least represents a team that's playing on October. When my friend Pat Edwards ended up finding out that another kid who's been on the show before, when he ended up mentioning that when he ended up finding out that no one had made the playoffs, he ended up saying, what about a guy like Paul Goldschmidt hit 294 at 31 home runs and was a key piece for the Cardinals making their push into the wild card this year. He looked at other guys.
I definitely think you could have made a case for Goldie. I also tend to bandwagon the Diamondbacks, so I was a huge Goldie fan.
Yeah,
this is definitely a case. I'm more than okay with none of them being on playoff teams. I think it's not the best playoff team or it's the most valuable player. You can still be the most valuable player to your team or to the whole league and not be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so
and I agree. I agree with you there that they're the most valuable person in the league, and I think that with none of them making the playoffs, you don't have to deal with a situation like with Mike Trout versus Mookie Betts. I think in 2016, where Mike Trout was on a 78 win baseball team, and Mookie Betts was the powerhouse of the Red Sox offense, leading them into the playoffs in a charge. And Mike Trout wins. Mookie Betts literally had every other stat on Mike Trout besides WAR, and Mike Trout won. So
yeah.
I mean, listen.
That's what you're seeing now. I mean, that's kind of why I'm glad Harper won. Because in the past, it had been the MVP award is just a WAR award. Who has the best WAR? They were actually talking about that today on Starting Nine. I was listening to it. So that's why I'm glad Harper won in that sense, because I believe Soto did have the higher WAR, but Harper had the better numbers.
Yeah, so I'm glad about that.
I think WAR is a not ideal stat. There's definitely things you have to put into consideration there. So I'm glad Harper won in that sense, because WAR is something that's not always perfect.
Yeah. I have, for lack of a better word, gone on a war against WAR for the majority of this show, because I just don't think it accurately reflects, how.
No, you're right there. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I
mean, definitely got to keep it into consideration. I'm a big underlying numbers fan, like I talked about earlier. But WAR isn't.
Yeah,
it's just not a good stat, I should say.
I mean, listen, I think that WAR, and like I've said this, with other stats and with other analytics in general, I think that analytics and WAR they're a good tool. They're not a crutch.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And when you
use to evaluate a player, but that's not the catch-all, I should say.
Exactly. When you're trying to decide between like 2 low-level players that maybe one you have to pay $1 million and one you have to pay $3 million, and you can actually say, all right, how much of a benefit am I actually going to get if I spend the $3 million on this guy? You can actually make a legitimate judgment. But when it comes down to deciding the best player in all of baseball, I think that there can be kind of I think some stuff can kind of get overlooked.
Yeah, exactly. The MVP award, like I said, the WAR award. That's not how it should be. It's whoever is the most valuable to your team, to your league.
100%. I mean, I listen, I agree with you there. So, I think that there should have at least been someone that was at least a finalist that did it. And I mean, listen, these finalists, they're all decided by the baseball writers who, vote for these guys. So
the baseball writers, don't get me started on them either.
And I'm just like, none of you guys voted for a guy that actually made the postseason this year. Like none of you guys. I think one guy voted for like Trey Turner, and that was it, which that was kind of out of left field. But I'm just like, none of you guys.
I understood the Trey Turner vote. I think he was. He was definitely someone I think you could have made a case for without a doubt.
No, he was great. I mean, he got traded, which unfortunately for guys in that consideration kind of screw some things up with their stats sometimes.
There.
Yeah, but in general, I mean, like I think that there should have been, at least one guy, 1 out of 6.
I'm okay with it the way it was.
Okay.
I don't think playoff contention's out something that's required to be an MVP even on the ballot.
Fair enough. I mean, listen, it's something that I would want, but listen, I respect your decision there.
Yeah.
But
no, I understand it. It's
yeah.
kind of, it's hard to be a most valuable player in your team when your team's not even in the playoffs. So
exactly. Yeah. But before we do go, Cam, I do want to talk to you about the Red Sox and how you feel about them this year. With the offseason decisions coming up, what do you want to see from the Red Sox?
I really want them to address the defense. I've been a broken record here. I love Bogey. I think Bogey's the heart and soul of the team. He is not a capable shortstop on a World Series winning baseball team. He doesn't have the range, and he's not a bad defensive infielder. He's about middle of the road for a MLB. I think he's literally right in the middle of the MLB average, but his range rate is just so little. I think if we were to move him to second and sign one of the key shortstops, quick disclaimer, I'm very, very much out on Carlos Correa. I do not want Correa on this team. I think he'd ruin the culture and everything we have created, and he's just too much. We couldn't sign Mookie Betts, but we could sign Correa. So I'm out on Correa. Back to my original point. I'd love to see a Trevor Story.
Yeah. You actually mentioned this on the podcast I did with you.
I did, yes. Trevor Story is my number one. I know it's a dream. I'd love to see Story just peppering walls. He has one of the best pull rates in the MLB. And another thing with Story is we wouldn't have to give up a whole lot to get him. I think of all the free agent shortstop, he's going to be the cheapest. He's coming off not the greatest of years. Again, that's something you got to be worried about. Definitely the Coors Field effect and everything. But I think he's second in all of shortstops in defensive runs saved since 2016, I believe. Correa was number 1.
Okay.
So I think if we put Bogarts at second, Story at short, and Devers at third, that's a middle infield that you could only dream about.
Yeah.
And that right there, I think, puts us over the top.
Yeah. Something else that we had mentioned on your show as well, that when we did it on Tuesday, was addressing the needs at first base. Now, there's no certainty that Kyle Schwarber will be making a return here. That is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to call it a certainty, but it's been reported heavily that he wants to come back to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox want him back.
I mean, listen,
if it actually happens, great. But that's what seems to be the industry thought right now.
As do I. If he's able to return to the Red Sox, absolutely love that. So, he with the way this team is being, essentially lined up right now. If Schwarber was to return, he'd be, starting over at first base, and JD would be the DH by, all things accounted for. So, I don't think that there's anything that we need to do at first base right now, because one, Schwarber is going to be would be coming back, and then you'd have JD at the DH spot, and then you have Bobby and whatnot. But also, one thing I'm interested in is Tristan Casas. He's down in AAA right now, got promoted at the very end of the year, so I think that he could be a guy that would be really interesting to watch.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very excited for Casas next year. He's gonna take a little time. He has to spend a little more time in AAA. I think we see him right around the All-Star break. So that puts our timeline perfect, where if we re-sign Schwarber, we'll have Bob, then we'll have Casas. So we got 3 first basemen right there. And then JD's a free agent after next year. I think we let him go. Then we have the future set up. We got Casas and Bob in a little platoon for first base, whichever one takes over. Great. The other one's the bench player. Then you have Schwarber to be your DH for whatever contract he signs. Probably be like a 3 or 4 year contract. So you'd have Schwarber DHing for the next 2 or 3 years after that.
Yeah,
I think that's an ideal situation.
Yeah, another guy too that before we go that I want to see get another crack at the big leagues and get another shot is Jarren Duran. I know that he had kind of a rough go of it during this 2021 season, which frankly was kind of disappointing for me. Just for a general reference and question, real quick, where do you live nearby?
I'm in Greenville, actually.
So essentially, how far are you away from Lake Bryant by any chance?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you're like right by here. So
yes.
So I live up near like Worcester County. I'm over in Sutton, Massachusetts, is where I'm typically from. So I'm, when I'm about maybe like a 10 to 15 minute drive from Polar Park, the new Red Sox park up there. And let me tell you, man, the buzz that has come from the Woo Sox has been crazy amongst not even like the local community, but the kids in the community as well. So and I'll explain this and get this back to Jaron Duran. Trust me. So I ended up working as a summer camp counselor over the summer, and I worked with some local kids and did some stuff with them, and they were obviously all big sports fans. And man, let me tell you, Jaron Duran was like a trending topic amongst like 8-9-year-olds, like because these kids were going to Woo Sox games, seeing this man absolutely tank baseballs out of the park, and they were basically just going, hey, this guy's the future. And like they're analyzing this guy. And I ended up seeing him for myself too. And when you see this man down in AAA, he absolutely launches the baseball, and he did it in a way that you didn't see at the major league level. So I'm hoping he's able to, get used to some of the big league pitching and can get another shot. Cause if he can, man, I think that he could be a real big threat for the Red Sox.
Yeah. I was really high on Duran coming through the system. Yeah. I think once he got to AAA though, he looked really, really good.
Yeah.
But again, I know you don't like underlying numbers. I'm a big fan of underlying numbers. His underlying numbers weren't as good. He didn't have such a good barrel rate. His batting average on balls into play was super high, which that's not something that's that's eventually gonna level off. So you can't really consider that as much. Mm-hmm. I like the kid. I think his speed is completely unmatched, but he needs to cut down his K rate.
He can fly.
Exactly. He needs to cut down the K rate. I think he needs to spend more time in AAA. He looked really good. I know when he started there, he only had like a 200 average for the first, I want to say like 30 games, and they started to heat up. I mean, I think his floor right now is Scott Podsednik. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I remember Skip.
Just a pure speed option, bring him in, steal a bag. Dave Roberts, even you could say, get that stolen bag when you need it. I think his ceiling is definitely. I think he strikes me as a Shane Victorino type guy, where he has a little bit of pop in him. He's super fast, can play solid defense, even though we haven't seen him play solid defense yet. He played good defense in the Polar.
Yeah,
I would be happy if we could get him to be Victorino, but I'm not super high on Duran. I'd love to flip him in a trade if we could, just because I don't think he has that high ceiling.
I will say this: it's looking more apparent that he could be a trade chip now because of the way he performed at the big league level. I really like him too. I want him to get another crack at it, but you may be right there. So that's obviously something that we're going to have to watch out for going forward. So that'll obviously be interesting.
Yeah. I call me crazy. I look at Luis Castillo in Cincinnati. He is an absolute stud, young pitcher on a cheap contract. If we could find a way to trade for him, I don't particularly care for Hunter Renfroe either. I think if we could package Renfroe to replace Castellanos in Cincinnati, because I don't think Castellanos is coming back. I think that's kind of public knowledge by now. Say, flip Renfroe, sell high on him, just because he's going to be a free agent next year anyway, so it's not like we're going to have him for a long time.
Yeah.
Sell high on Renfroe, include Duran, even Downs, Groom, Mata, just kind of your guys that you're going to have to put on the 40-man to keep them from being exposed to the Rule 5 draft. If we trade a bunch of those to Cincinnati, along with, a stud prospect, we're obviously going to have to include a lot. I think if we got Luis Castillo, that would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah,
we have a prospect logjam right now. If we trade a bunch of those prospects, that I trust Heim. I think Heim knows which prospects are his good ones, which ones aren't. I think I look at Luis Castillo and think that he'd be a perfect match for Fenway. He's a ground ball pitcher. He throws a filthy changeup, one of the filthiest changeups I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he keeps it in the ground, which you don't want to get in the air at Fenway because we got a nice little right field, and then we got that green monster. So he's the perfect Fenway pitcher. I think we should do everything we can to trade for him. I think that Duran would be a chip we absolutely would have to trade if we did want Castillo.
I mean, listen, Castillo is a beast, so that is something I feel like where I'd be willing to part with Duran on. So, obviously, Cam, thank you so much for coming on, man. It has been a blast.
Anytime.
It has been a blast talking with you, but unfortunately, man, we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to talk about some of the things that we went over in this episode in kind of a little list off format before we send you guys away on your weekend. And obviously, you guys, we welcome Cam Souve onto the show to talk about everything going on in the sports world. We ended up starting with Antonio Brown's fake vaccination card allegation by his former chef, which I still can't get over that. Then we went into Pats versus Falcons and the 25-0 absolute beatdown New England threw on them. In NHL news, we talked about the Bruins schedule crisis and how it's been just a complete mess so far this season, and also talked about John Henry and Fenway Sports Group buying the Pittsburgh Penguins. We additionally talked about other speculations with the Bruins, including Tuukka Rask and David Krejci coming back. And finally, we ended things in MLB news, talking about the MVP race and the decision of the MVP between Shohei Ohtani and Bryce Harper being the elected winners, and the fact that none of the MVPs actually ended up making the playoffs this year. And obviously, to end it all off, we ended up talking about our thoughts on the Red Sox going forward for next year. Cam, it's been a blast having you, man, and I'm so glad to get you on. Hopefully, I can get you on again soon.
Glad to be here. Yeah, absolutely.
But if you guys are not following Down to the Wire at this point, what the heck are you guys doing? We're available anywhere you guys can find podcasts. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. But the main hub, you guys, that you can reach us through is our Instagram. You can follow that at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great weekend. And from DTW, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Cam Souve.
And we hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care.